Hey, what is up you guys? My name is Jess and welcome back to Planted Hippie. Welcome back to another planty video, you guys. I hope you have been having a wonderful new year and happy 2023. Today I will be sharing with you all what wishlist plants I got in 2022 and what wishlist plants I hope on getting this year in 2023. So if that does interest you, I please ask that you stick around, leave a like, maybe even a comment down below sharing which wishlist plants you're on the hunt for this year, and maybe even hitting that subscribe bell so that you're notified every time I upload a new video and to help me keep on planting. Please also don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I post new planty photos daily. So with that, let's go ahead and get into today's video. Alrighty, so as promised, I did want to go ahead and share with you all which plants I did end up getting from my wish list last year. I did have a wish list video that I posted about 8 months ago. It is super cringy and it's mostly just because I wasn't really 100% comfortable filming yet, but it is a good video to go check out nonetheless if you want to go see which plants I talked about in that video. So I did want to go ahead and share with you all which plants I did end up getting from that wish list video. So the first one that I ended up getting really quickly after that video from a subscriber and friend on Instagram was the Alocasia Dragon Scale, and I will actually go and get mine now and show you what it looks like. So yeah, like I was saying, I did receive this from a friend on Instagram. She sent it to me in the mail and it actually came with just this little leaf here, this little guy, and now it has completely turned into a really nice little substantial plant. I had it in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet, my Redstone one that has the whole moss wall build. I did make a video on it if you'd like to go check it out. It is a two-parter because it was such a long process, but I did go ahead and place this plant at the base of one of the potting areas in that cabinet that I had created. And I don't know, I just sort of got a little scared that I would end up losing this plant for some reason if it were to get too moist in there or not be totally drying out. I also just wanted it to have more room outside of the cabinet to turn into this big, lush, wonderful plant like Wild Ferns. If you remember in the last video, she is the reason I wanted this plant in the first place because hers is just so magnificent and regal and huge, and I wanted mine to be like that. So I went ahead and took her out of the cabinet, potted her up in a nice little clear pot so I can monitor her root growth and everything. And if you can see here, some nice little white shiny roots are starting to show through. So I am hoping that is obviously a good sign and that this lady is liking her little transition to a solitary life. So yeah, I am just totally obsessed with this plant. Like mentioned in the video, I was a little scared of alocasias because of their spider mite problems, but honestly with having this in the cabinet and having it in such high humidity, I never had any spider mite problems on it, knock on wood. And I only took it out of the cabinet about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I haven't seen any damage from spider mites attacking her yet. I'm looking at her now. I don't see any webbing or anything, so I think we're okay. I did go ahead the other day and go around my entire plant collection, or at least about like 3/4 of the way, I think. And I did go ahead and sprinkle in some granule systemic to help with pest prevention, and I did want to try out that new method because I've just heard good things about it. And in this method, the plants are able to soak up the pesticide. So in this way, the plants are sort of internally protected from pests, and I'm just really excited to see how it goes. I did go ahead and sprinkle some into this plant as well as a lot of others and gave them all really good thorough watering. So I will report back to share with you all how well that goes. But I did want to go ahead and show you guys how beautiful the Alocasia Dragon Scale has gotten and why it was on my wish list in the first place, because look how amazing that shield is. Absolutely beautiful, like a little dragon egg or something. It's so amazing. It actually really reminds me of my Anthurium luxurians because of that really thick meaty leaf and that really cool texture. So that was our first wish list plant that I got last year, my Alocasia Dragon Scale. Alrighty, so for the next two plants on that wish list video that I was wanting were the pendant anthuriums, and I could not for the life of me pronounce their names last year, but I think I can do it now. It was the Anthurium winlingrii and Anthurium vitirifolium. So Wow, I'm actually so proud I got that right. So it was the Anthurium winlingrii and the Anthurium vitirifolium that were in the past wishlist videos. I did not end up getting either of those pendant anthuriums. I actually ended up getting 2 other pendant anthurium. They were not listed in that wishlist video, but I am going to go ahead and share with you all the wishlist plants that I ended up getting last year, even if they weren't in that original wish list video. I did end up adding some more to the wish list as my year went on, so I will also be sharing those with you. But in place of those pendant anthuriums, I actually ended up getting an Anthurium pallidiflorum and an Anthurium pendulifolium. So I will go and grab those here now for you guys so you can see how magnificent they are. Alrighty, so I may have to like zoom out a little bit or even back up, I'm not sure, but if you can see her, oh my gosh, guys. All right, so it's going to be very hard to get this plant into the frame without completely backing up, but if you can see, this is the newest leaf on my Anthurium pallidiflorum. It's literally like 3 feet long, guys. I'm going to sort of stand up and walk over here so you can see how big it is. Oh my gosh, guys. It is so massive. So I'm 5'9", so I mean I could get a tape measure for you guys and measure it real quick, but this is definitely the biggest reason I wanted this Anthurium, and it was definitely a little bit more obtainable than the winlingrii or the vitirifolium, at least for me. And I actually got this locally at Equigenera's USA location here in Florida, and I think I only got it with like this leaf. So it gave me this one, then it gave me this big girl, which I was so shook about, and then just recently here, it's still really floppy, if you guys can tell. I don't know if it's gonna get a little bit longer, but this is just the most amazing leaf ever. Such an amazing plant. This is also a really, just sort of, I'm gonna kind of like stand over here. Oh, did you hear it slap? That's so funny. And what is really, really unique and cool about these pendant anthuriums is no matter how you really plant them, they're always gonna try and find their way out of the pot to be able to hang upside down like they do naturally in the wild out of trees. And yeah, I am just so freaking obsessed with mine. It has been such an easy care anthurium. Honestly, I think it likes to dry out just a little bit more than my usual anthurium. I will wait until about right now. I will show you. You can kind of see the top layer is pretty dry, and I will actually be watering her later today. And that is kind of like my rule of thumb and measurement tool with this plant. If I see that the top layer is relatively dry, I will go ahead and give her a really nice thorough watering. And that's all I've really been doing to make sure that this plant is successful, other than obviously fertilizing it. If you know anything about anthurium, you'll know that they are really hardy eaters and they love their fertilizer if you're gonna want that really fast, lush growth. And yeah, I could not really recommend this plant anymore. Anytime a friend or oh my gosh, I cannot get over how big this leaf is. Anytime anyone asks me what anthurium they should start out with when going for a more pendant look anthurium, I will always suggest this one because it has just given me no issues, no pest problems either, knock on wood. I'm just so excited to have this plant in my collection, and if you are on the fence about getting one yourself, do it because they are so easy, so beautiful to look at. And I was so right about my like feel about them in the last video. They are so calming to look at because they just remind me of a little waterfall. That was my second plant, I believe, on our wish list that we got last year, my Anthurium pallidiflorum. Alrighty, and next I did want to show you guys my Anthurium pendulifolium. Oh, it is such a beautiful plant. Again, another really cool pendant like anthurium. So if you can see here, you can kind of see that her growth pattern was a little bit wonky when I got her. But when I did repot her into this big, beautiful hanging basket here, she ended up spitting out a beautiful, huge new leaf in the right direction, sort of facing upward, so that when I go to look at her, it's just so, so cool. I'm gonna back up a little bit again. So as you can see, again, it is just such a huge leaf. A little bit different. You can see that the ribbing on it is really unique. It is a little bit more of a thicker leaf as well than the pallidiflorum. The pallidiflorums are a little bit fragile, I guess, a little bit thinner of a leaf and also softer. This one has a little bit more of a sheeny, shiny texture, but relatively same care. I have it obviously in a way bigger pot. I'm actually thinking about up potting the other Pallitiflorum into this size pot here soon, but I wanted to go ahead and give this one an up pot because it was in such a small little tiny pot from the nursery that I got it from, and it was not in a hanging pot either when I bought it, so I thought it would really appreciate being in a hanging basket since they like to hang out of trees. And yeah, I am still obviously learning about this beautiful anthurium, but like I said, it is pretty relatively the same care as I stated for my Anthurium pallitiflorum, other than I do wait a little bit longer for this one to dry out just because it is a much bigger pot, and I like to wait until, again, that topsoil layer is very, very dry. And I will go ahead and also, just for good measure, use my moisture meters to sort of probe the soil and see how far down that dryness does go before giving it another really good drenching with water. So I absolutely am in love with this anthurium as well. I am so glad I ended up adding it to my wish list later in the year because I am just so obsessed. So yeah, that was sort of our replacements for the Anthurium windlingeri and Vitorifolium. But yeah, I am definitely still on the hunt for the Anthurium windlingeri. These two plants sort of just held me off until I can hopefully get one this year. So these are my two pendant Anthurium babies. So yeah, I hope to fully complete my Anthurium pendant like trio when I get my Anthurium windlingeri this year. So yeah, I could not recommend this plant more. The Anthurium pendulifolium is so rewarding. I can't wait till I get another beautiful leaf like this, and hopefully it'll be even bigger. And then hopefully one day these leaves will be like the size of me. Really unique plant. So glad I added it to my wish list later in the year, and hopefully you do too. So yeah, the next plant on my wish list that I did get last year was the Philodendron tortum, and if you guys can see her, I did put her on a pole. I believe I did mention this plant back in like a favorites video when I first got it. It was so tiny. I think it was like, I showed it with like these leaves down here, and now that it is nice and huge, look at those little weird hand leaves. They're so beautiful. It actually reminds me of like having a palm tree without actually having to take care of like an actual palm. I like philodendron, and it's just so cool that this guy looks like this. And I almost lost this guy. I didn't really understand what I was doing wrong with this guy, but I think after adding it to a pole and giving it a lot more humidity next to the humidifier, I think unfurling its leaves got a lot easier for it, and that was how I was basically able to make it bounce back and return to this former glory. I cannot wait till it is all the way up this entire pole. It is going to look so cool, and as the leaves get even bigger and bigger, it is just going to be such a unique plant and rewarding plant to watch grow. These leaves unfurl so cool. It's almost like it comes out in a fist and then they all wrinkly kind of unfurl, and if I can find any photos of like it mid unfurling, I will definitely put it on screen. But I am just so obsessed with how beautiful these leaves are, how easy it is after I did sort of figure out what it did want. It just likes to completely dry out about halfway, because I do have it in like a very airy mixture as well as like a very porous pot, so I only let it dry out about halfway down the pot. And it's actually really helpful that I can see into the soil here through these little holes, so I'm able to actually see into the pot and soil and see if it does need water or not. So it actually feels and looks like it is going to need some water, and I'm going to actually go and wet its moss pole again. I am just super obsessed with this plant. Could not be more happy. Such an easy care for philodendron, and if you were looking to get one for yourself, I highly recommend it because it is just such an easy care plant. So I am just super grateful that I was able to get this plant last year and now able to continue to grow it in the way that I want. So yeah, I will obviously keep you guys updated on how she continues to grow up her pole, and definitely keep updated on my Instagram because I do share lots of photos of her when she does put out new leaves because she is just so cute. And yeah, that was our fourth plant, I believe, for today, the Philodendron tortum. So those were all of the plants that I did end up getting from that specific video, but I did end up adding way more wishlist plants to my list after that video was made and posted. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you all the other wishlist plants that I was able to get last year after that video. First one being is my Philodendron gigas, and it is in a pretty wedged spot near the humidifier, so I'm not able to bring it here in front of the camera, but I'm going to be getting some some b-roll of her. She is just such a unique philodendron. Those droopy little sad looking leaves are just so unique, and as you can see, she is putting out a new one for me, and I can't wait to see how this one unfurls. They unfurl in such a beautiful like maroon color. It's almost sort of like a philodendron micans when they sort of come out, very velvety and maroon like, and then they sort of darken off to that very dark green. And such an easy philodendron, just like other philodendrons. I just sort of let mine dry out halfway through. I do like to keep my moss poles obviously moist as much as I can without letting them get hydrophobic and dry out. So having it by the humidifier like this is super beneficial to the pole, so that I'm not constantly having to re-wet the pole and having water sort of trickle down into the plant and cause any sort of overwatering issue. I haven't had that happen yet. I haven't really had that happen to any of my moss pole plants. I'm guessing that my airflow in my plant room is good enough that no one is getting any sort of overwatering root rot. So fingers crossed and knock on wood that it continues to stay that way. I am just absolutely obsessed with this gigas. I got her at EFG Orchids when she was just 2 little leaves, and I am just so amazed. And she is definitely a little bit of a slower grower. I don't really have her in like a high light area because I do like how dark those leaves are, and I didn't want to cause any sort of burning to the leaves, so I've just sort of been testing where she wants to be. She is in a darker place on the table, sort of behind other plants and not really in the forefront, getting all the grow light. So I may do some experimenting in the coming year to see if more light will give her a little bit of a faster growth rate. So I'm not too sure about why it is such a slower grower. I obviously did sort of pot it into a bigger pot to accommodate for the large moss pole. I am assuming maybe she is also trying to root out that giant pot before giving a lot more growth very quickly. She could just be focusing on her root growth, which is totally fine. So I am just so in love with this plant. So floppy and droopy looking. It is just so unique, so beautiful, and such an easy care plant so far for me, and I just hope it continues to stay that way. So that was our, I hate counting these freaking plants. So yeah, that was the 5th or 6th plant, I don't remember, that I did end up getting from my wish list last year, my philodendron gigas. The only 2 plants that I did not get from my original wish list video were the Stephania nova, the little potato sort of caudex plant, as well as my Hoya praetori. So I am still on the hunt for both of those plants. I cannot wait to get the Hoya praetori because those fuzzy little cute peduncles are to die for, and I want it so bad in my collection, because that would just be the epitome of all wishlist plants getting this year, would be getting that Hoya praetori, as well as the Stephania nova, but really wanting that Hoya praetori. Alrighty, so the next big wishlist plant, this was probably the biggest wishlist plant that I ended up adding after that video. Probably the most expensive too. It is my Monstera Burl Marks Flame. It is a little juvenile baby. That is because it obviously was, it had come from a little cutting here. It's a big old chunk that it came from, and now she is just making her way out. And to my horror, closer to probably like a month ago, definitely before like Thanksgiving, I took her out to check on her root system and everything, and to my horror, there was just a little bit of root rot going on. There's like 2 or 3 really large aerial roots that are in the pot that it came with. Obviously they started to rot at like tips, so I went ahead and snipped them, dipped the entire root ball in a hydrogen peroxide solution, and repotted it and hoped for the best. And I actually went and checked on the root growth, or I guess root progression, about 3 weeks ago, and thankfully white juicy new beautiful little baby fuzzy roots were starting to form on those aerial roots that were in the pot originally. And actually today, before I started filming, I checked on her root growth again, and she is amazing. The white roots that I checked on a few weeks prior are even bigger and fuzzier and longer, and there's even more root growth than before. So I'm just so happy that this girl seems to be bouncing back. It is seemingly a little pregnant. Let's see, this is the newest leaf. See if you can see it. You can kind of see there. Right here, she is a little pregnant. So yeah, as you can see right there, she is a little pregnant, and I'm just waiting for the like tip of that leaf to sort of come out. And yeah, I am just so in love with this plant. Again, such a unique plant if you have seen it in its mature form. As a juvenile, it's still pretty cool for like a monstera. I think it's such a cool plant, and it really does differ from the Monstera deliciosa or even the Syriana with its really unique fenestration when it does start to mature, and I just cannot wait till mine inevitably does that. And yeah, I'm just really glad that these roots in here are bouncing back and I'm not killing this plant. I am really happy that she is doing better, and hopefully that new leaf will come out, and I will definitely keep you guys updated on Instagram when it does. So again, follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up to date on new leaves. I post them on my stories all the time. That was our, I don't even know what number we're on anymore, but that was probably my biggest and most favorite wish list plant that I got all last year. This is probably it. Actually, I don't know. I got this girl and the other 2 or 3 plants that I'm about to mention from the same trip down in Miami to the International Air Raid show. I actually got this guy at the Perfect Choice down there, but the other 2 I got at the Air Raid show, and definitely wish list plants as well, but I think this one takes the cake. It honestly brought me back to the day that I got my Albo Monstera at the same nursery, and if you know anything about that plant, it is the plant that got me into loving rare plants and really jumping headfirst into this hobby. And yeah, I just love that nursery and so many good memories there. So when I was able to kind of recreate it here, it honestly gave me the same feeling as that day. So it just holds this little special place in my heart and such a special plant to me. And again, I just can't wait to see how it does mature and eventually get those big beautiful fenestrations. So this plant just has my heart and I love it. So that is why I had to mention it today, and I'm so glad I was able to obtain it last year. So yeah, that was my Monstera Burl Marks Flame. So yeah, like I mentioned, the next 2 plants were also purchased on the same trip to Miami, and also I got these ones again at the International Air Raid show. So for the first wishlist plant that I ended up getting, that was not in that video again, but this has sort of been on my wish list period for like the beginning of my entire plant journey. So I don't even know why I didn't mention it in the wishlist plant video, but it is my variegated money tree. I'm absolutely freaking obsessed with this plant. It is just everything and more that I thought it was gonna be. If you guys can see on this newest leaf, I can hide. If you can see the variegation on these new leaves, you can see this little baby is coming out as well. It is just so freaking amazing. Even on these older leaves, such amazing speckly like Oreo cookies and cream variegation. I am just so obsessed with this plant. Super freaking easy. Again, I mean, it is a tropical plant, so I actually went ahead and gave her a water before I brought her over here. But you can kind of see, you can see all those really beautiful juicy roots, some on the sides as well. There are some. And yeah, I was so amazed when I learned that these could be grown from seed, and that is what mine was supposedly sold to me as, was a seed grown one. So I was just like shook. I was like, okay, cool. I thought they could only be like grafted. I guess not. And it really did root really well into this. It's in the same container that I bought it in. And yeah, I'm just super obsessed with this plant. Again, super easy since it's in such a little pot. I just go ahead and wait till I see it completely dried out. They said not to let it completely dry out, but this is just what I do with my other money trees too. I just let them completely dry out, especially since I can see the soil moisture in the clear pot. I noticed that the roots are still good whenever they get dried out like that and rehydrate perfectly fine. So as long as it's not dry for like days and days on end, as soon as I see that it's dry, I give it a good thorough drenching like it is now. And now it is all wet and nice and hydrated. And especially when it's putting out new leaves like this, you want to make sure that you're on top of the watering so that the new growth does not dry out and die off, because that is really sad. And I've definitely had that happen to my other money trees where I learned that from. Definitely learn from me and my mistakes, and don't let it happen to your even more rare variegated version of your money tree. So I'm just so obsessed with it, guys. It is so beautiful. Like, look at this one. Like, look at these leaves. They're just so cool. And I've definitely posted a lot of photos of when these leaves are unfurling. They throw out like little Grinch hands. It is the cutest freaking thing I've ever seen. And yeah, I just can't get enough of this plant. I'm so glad my mom ended up buying this for me. She is the sweetest mother in the entire world, and I love her because she just likes to make me happy with things that I love. In this time period of my life, it is plants, and she has always loved plants, so spoiling me with something she loves too is like right up her alley. And yeah, we just had such a great trip that month, and it was for my birthday, and it was just such a perfect moment of life and in time that I will always cherish this plant because of the memory it holds behind it when we picked it up. So yeah, that is definitely why I had to mention it today on our wish list video, and I'm so happy again that I was able to get it, and such an easy care plant. I was really scared that it wasn't going to be, but it totally is, and I'm so happy to have it here in my collection. And that was my variegated money tree. So the last plant that I did end up getting on that trip and that weekend with the others was my philodendron strawberry shake. And again, this is a big old girl, so I can't bring her over here, so have to deal with the b-roll. She is just so beautiful. She's put out a new leaf, and the new plants video that I made when I introduced all of these plants originally, I showed you all that one stem of the plant was highly variegated in the traditional strawberry shake look, and the other vine that was in the same pot as the one that I purchased was reverted. I have sort of let it grow out to see if it would come back, but I don't think it is. So when I do inevitably want to repot this girl or sort of check on her root system next time, I will probably be taking that reverted plant out of the pot, chopping it back all the way to the bottom node that I have left on it, and seeing if it'll pop out a new variegated leaf from that. If it doesn't come out variegated again, I'll end up probably wanting to rehome that specific stem, or probably just trashing it because I already have the beautiful big variegated vine. Honestly, the other plants that were being sold at that booth that day didn't have two main stems in it. They only had one main plant, so I got pretty lucky with having a really full nice plant, even if it wasn't fully variegated like that. I just don't see myself like wanting to care for the reverted version as much as my strawberry shake, so I'd rather give it away to someone who potentially just likes the green look regardless. But yeah, I am just super obsessed with this plant still. I can't believe how the variegation changes so much from when the leaf first unfurls to when it starts to harden off to that traditional strawberry pink color. It really comes out a very caramel color, almost like the caramel marble philodendron that everyone is freaking obsessed with. And yeah, I really think it has the same color scheme and look to that, and maybe it could be an alternative to some people, because I know the caramel marbles are still very pricey, as well as the strawberry shakes, but I have seen them sort of come down, especially if you can get a smaller one. Unlike this one was absolutely huge and definitely really expensive. And the plant shop in like tent area that I ended up getting it from, their mother plant of the same strawberry shake, I'm guessing like their stock of strawberry shakes, ended up winning in the aroid contest. And she has also continued to just put out new leaves ever since bringing her home. Even after I repotted her into her giant terracotta pot, she's never really given me any issues, and just such an easy care philodendron. And I can't wait for her to get even bigger and bigger up her pole. Hopefully one day I'll be able to maybe chop her up if I'm feeling up to it, and able to sell off some of her little babies. But until then, I'm just going to enjoy her for what she is, and such a beautiful, unique plant. Such a huge, beautiful, and unique plant. So easy care and such a showstopper. Whenever I have friends over, they're always like, what is that plant and why is it pink? And yeah, it's definitely where it gets its strawberry shake name from, and just such a cool, unique plant again, and I'm so lucky to have it in my collection. So that was the sort of end of all the plants that I got at the show. I do have one more wishlist plant to show you all that I did end up getting last year, and then we can move on to the wishlist plants that I am wanting to get this year. But first, let's go ahead and show off the last wishlist plant that I was able to get last year, and that is my Hoya Polynera variegata. And I believe I first introduced this plant in the new plants video that I filmed a few months ago, and I recently actually cut this girl back a ton. And if you did watch that video, you will know that the plant had like two really huge vines sort of shooting off from it, and I ended up taking cuttings from one of those vines, and I wanted to make some propagations to sell off to local planty people, and I have sold a few of them. The rest of them are, you can see here in my cabinet. I'll have to bring some out to show you guys. So I have 8 of these propagations left, and like 4 of them were taken like before, and then I took like 4 more. So these ones are super like outgrown and doing really, really well. I'm still looking for homes for these guys. So if you were on the hunt for a Hoya polyneura albo, I have a lot of them if you were wanting to buy one from me. And yeah, just such a beautiful, cool, unique plant. It just reminds me of little mermaid fins, and I think that's why a lot of people love them. You can just see how well they rooted into the medium. Here you can see on the sides, they are rooting up really, really nicely. That's why I like to do props in clear cups, so that when I do end up selling them, my clients can obviously see that they are nicely well rooted and very, very healthy. You can see here, there's just so many roots. Sorry for the glare. You can definitely see all of those green, healthy roots going across that cup. And yeah, just a super, super easy Hoya to care for. I do notice that they like to be a little bit more moist. And once I see that there's no like little droplets of condensation on the inside of like the cups where the soil meets the cup, I will go ahead and give it a really nice thorough watering. These don't have any drainage because I'm a doofus and didn't like take some hot something and poke holes in it before planting them. But I just go ahead and make sure whenever I am watering, I just sort of like fill it up to when it starts to puddle at this first little ringlet here, and then I stop because I know that the rest of the soil will sort of wick it up to the top. It's sort of like making like a little water reservoir without the whole hydroponic system. But yeah, I am super, super excited for these guys. You can see this beautiful, almost completely white leaves that came out of the mother plant. It is so, so beautiful, so cool. And yeah, I can't get enough of this freaking plant. I actually took 2 of the cuttings that I made and plugged them back into the mother plant. Eventually I will be repotting this into like a terracotta pot and probably be putting it in a hanging basket so that it can just hang and be so beautiful one day. And yeah, again, I'm just so, so excited to see how this continues to develop. Hopefully I will have a giant, huge, bushy bush of Hoya polyneura, and if I don't end up selling most of these, I'll probably end up potting them back into the mother plant and just making a fuller pot like I said. So super, super obsessed with this plant, and it actually is the last wish list plant that I was able to get last year. And now we can go ahead and move on to the wish list plants that I hope to get this year in 2023. So moving on to the 2023 plant wish list that I have this year, I am going to be showing like pictures of what I want because obviously I don't have the plants yet. But the first plant on my wish list for 2023 is the Philodendron Splendid. And I have just seen so many people on Instagram have this philodendron, and the Philodendron Splendid is actually a hybrid between the Philodendron melanochrysum and the Philodendron verrucosum, which I have both of them, but obviously I haven't gotten them to flowers, so I can't really cross-pollinate them to make my own. So I'm really, really looking forward to hopefully being able to just get my own Splendid this year. And I am just so, so obsessed with these plants. I've seen so many other creators and even friends on Instagram have this plant, and specifically Sydney Plant Guy on Instagram has hands down the coolest philodendron collection. His splendids, his verrucosums, his everything are huge and absolutely beautiful. I don't know what they're putting in the water over there in Australia, but it has to be something good because his plants are seriously top notch. And I so badly want to get a Philodendron Splendid and one day hopefully get it up a pole and looking like his, because they are just so freaking show-stopping, so cool and unique. And I just really, really am wanting this plant this year. I just think they look really, really pillowy and soft and just such a unique hybrid. I honestly wasn't really into hybrids all that much until recently, and I don't really know why. I just think I had like a weird vendetta against it and only really wanted to have like pure species or whatever. But I think hybrids are honestly pretty cool, especially amongst like anthuriums and stuff. They can really get really unique and super cool. So I'm definitely on the hunt for the Philodendron Splendid this year, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Okay, so for basically the rest of the plants, except for I think one, are gonna be anthurium, because this year I really want to focus on expanding my anthurium collection. I'm just totally obsessed with the genus, and yeah, I just really want to start collecting more anthurium, because I think with the ones that I have, besides my magnificum that has died back to a stump and just now recently giving me a new growth point after a year of being basically dormant and thought it was dead. The rest of them have done really well under my care, and I am kind of confident on anthurium care at this point, and I just really want to add some more. So the first anthurium that I have had my eyes on, I have almost purchased it and almost got it last year. I should have gotten it, honestly, because I actually almost got it at Equigenera here in Apopka, Florida, and I went back recently, like probably 2 months later. Their stock of them had totally dwindled. Obviously, they are also an online retailer, so they probably got rid of a lot of stock since I had been gone. And yeah, the anthurium that I really wanted from them was the anthurium Besseyi. I don't even know if it needs the AF at the end, so I think it's actually anthurium Besseyi. But either way, I am totally obsessed with this anthurium as well, because if you have seen them online, they kind of unfurl with a like purple maroon sheen. Just again, so obsessed with it. I should have bought it when I had the chance, especially it was in person. They were so freaking flawless too. I'm honestly really mad at myself that I didn't get one. And yeah, I may just go ahead and do a little sneak trip back to Equigenera and see what they have. And even if they don't have like the greatest selection, I'm just gonna get one, because if I do end up getting one, I know even if it's not perfect, I can make it really, really beautiful. I just really want those big, big, pinky, beautiful leaves. They're just so cool. And I know people think it is really similar to crystallinum, but it is totally different. And even like the sinus shape to them are really, really unique. And I'm just totally kicking myself that I didn't get one earlier this year, but I will definitely be getting one this year. So definitely be on the lookout for when I do get one, because I am definitely getting that one, because I know it's obtainable, because it's literally like 2 hours away from me in Apopka, and it'll just take like a little quick trip down there to go and get one day. But until then, I'm just gonna have to sort of be miserable because I'm just so mad at myself for not getting it. But yeah, that is definitely one of the top anthurium that I'm on the hunt for this year, especially since they are a little bit more affordable. They are not as like sought after. They've been on the market for a while now, but now I think the popularity sort of has maybe gone down a little bit to where I think the biggest reason I didn't get it that day was it was like $120, and the last time I went there it had already dropped down to like $60. So I should have bought it the second time, but it's okay. I will definitely go back, and maybe it will be even cheaper than the last time. So fingers crossed I get that plant this year, and fingers crossed also that it is a lot more affordable. So yeah, that was the first anthurium wish list plant that I was wanting this year. Let's get on to the next couple anthuriums that I'm dying to have this year. So the next big wishlist plant on my list this year is the Anthurium Red Crystallinum. When I tell you guys, I literally dream about this plant. It is seriously like the epitome of like Anthurium to me. Even like the dock block, the just plain red crystallinums are so freaking stunning. I am so obsessed with them. It is just so red and pigmented, and such a cool color on an anthurium that you don't really get to see all the time. And I actually know that there are some available right now on NSC Tropical's website, and I am so tempted to want to go and get one, but they're literally almost like $400, so I don't think I can splurge like that right now. So I will just sort of have to wait like the rest of us until I hopefully maybe come across one at a show this year, or hopefully NSC will lower the prices, because they also have some Wenlingriais that I would love to get as well. I am just sort of gonna manifest that I'm gonna be able to make it work and get one, either through maybe a trade or again prices coming down. I'm seriously hoping for that, and maybe I'll be able to get my hands on one. But until then, I will just sort of have to be obsessed from afar, oogling over her over the internet like a creep. So yeah, that was my third wish list plant that I would love to get this year, and if I don't, I'm going to be really sad. So yeah, that is the, I think, third plant on my wish list that I would absolutely kill for this year. I am so obsessed with it, and if I were able to bring it home this year, I would probably cry on camera. So let's all keep our fingers crossed for me that I'm able to get this plant this year. And yeah, I will definitely obviously keep you guys updated if I do end up getting it. And yeah, that was the third plant, I believe, on the wish list today and for this year, the Anthurium Red Crystallinum. So the next anthurium that I have on my list today is a very dark one, and it has been around for a while, but the prices on them have definitely skyrocketed again, and that is the Anthurium Ace of Spades. And I am really intrigued about this anthurium. I think the leaf shape is really similar to the Papillinum, and I'm also really interested in maybe getting that as well, but I would probably want to get the Ace of Spades first to see how I like the look of that darker, sort of thinner leaf and feel feel to it. I was able to see one at Calvin's greenhouse at Tennessee Tropicals earlier this summer in August, and yeah, I really fell in love with his. His was absolutely massive, but it did sort of get the gears turning in my head and definitely put that plant on the map for me. So I'm definitely really excited to hopefully be able to get that Anthurium this year. And yeah, I am again just super obsessed with this one as well for different reasons. Obviously, like I said, that really dark look to them, their leaf shape, they can really come in a lot of different looks depending on like the parentage, obviously, but I definitely want to get like a pure Ace of Spades and yeah, just be able to grow it up very big and beautifully like my Anthurium luxurians. It is absolutely a beast now, and I want to do the rest with these other Anthuriums because I know these leaves can get absolutely massive. And yeah, I just want to sort of challenge myself this year by getting a lot more Anthuriums and also just growing up my current Anthuriums to be big and meaty and bulky. So I'm definitely hoping to get the Ace of Spades into my collection this year. I'm definitely on the lookout and will hopefully be able to maybe order one online here in the summertime, or even better, be able to find it in person so that I'm able to sort of pick out the one that I like. So that is definitely like the perfect case scenario. And again, I will definitely be keeping you guys updated if I do end up getting any of these wishlist plants here in the near future. So that was the next plant on our wish list today, and let's go ahead and get into, I believe, the final Anthurium on my list. Alrighty, so for the last Anthurium on my list, I actually just discovered this Anthurium. I think I have seen it beforehand, obviously, just in passing, but never really took the time to like go and search for the hashtag or see what it was really called. And recently I reposted on my story a creator who had one, and it is the Anthurium Silver Blush. And this Anthurium is so freaking pretty, guys. If you are into silvery or very like thick veined Anthurium, or just plants in general being silver, this is definitely the plant for you and for me, because I am so obsessed with it already. I cannot wait to hopefully be able to find one. I think they're pretty pricey still. Again, hopefully the prices will continue to come down for plants in general this year, because I think a lot of people have been very frugal with the economy being the way it has been for the past couple months. I know a lot of people have been saving up, and a lot of people just aren't willing to spend that type of money on plants right now, and a lot of people are turning towards trading and doing things more like that. So it's definitely wishful thinking to hope that I'm going to get it through a trade, but if not, I'm definitely willing to purchase it this year once I come into a little bit more money. And yeah, I am just really on the hunt for this one as well, and it would definitely make my year if I was able to get an Anthurium Silver Blush. So that was the last Anthurium on the wish list. Let's go ahead and get on to the last two plants on my list, and then we can wrap things up. So for the last two plants, they are actually Rhaphodophoras, and if you're not familiar with the Rhaphodophora genus, they are just a really nice climbing plant, are very similar to Monstera in my opinion. I have the Rhaphodophora tetrasperma. It is a really unique plant, and the plant that I'm really on the hunt for this year is the Rhaphodophora tetrasperma variegata, and I actually saw this plant in person at Perfect Choice earlier this year, again when I got all the other plants. I definitely wanted to focus on getting my Burl Marks Flame in that trip, but the next time I go, it is probably going to be this Rhaphodophora, because the variegation on these plants is so amazing, especially the ones that were at the nursery at Perfect Choice. They were so beautifully variegated, and I have seen a few of my friends on Instagram have them, and I'm just so obsessed every time they post a new photo. And I would just be so grateful if I was able to hopefully maybe get a cheaper cutting this year. If not, I'm definitely willing to go back to Perfect Choice and get one from them. So yeah, any type of plant with that really white albo variegation, I am just automatically hooked and drawn to, because again, it really reminds me of when I fell in love with my albo Monstera and how it really got me into plants, and it just gives me that same feeling when I saw that plant at Perfect Choice. I literally pulled out my phone and like added it to my list as soon as I left the greenhouse. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully being able to get my hands on that one this year. And yeah, hopefully again I will be able to get it, and if I do, I will obviously be keeping you guys updated, because that is definitely like a holy grail plant. Like, I have put it on such a pedestal that once I get it, again, I'm probably gonna cry or something. And yeah, I think just because of that albo variegation, it just makes me want it even more, and I'm already just so obsessed with it. So yeah, that was the second to last plant on our wish list today, the Rhaphodophora tetrasperma variegata. Alrighty, the very last plant on my wish list for 2023 this year is going to be the Rhaphidophora pertusa. And if you've not heard of this Rhaphidophora before, you are definitely in for a treat when you see these photos I'm about to put up. These Rhaphidophoras are so unique and beautiful. I saw my first Rhaphidophora pertusa at Perfect Choice again. I swear they have like every freaking plant known in existence. And it was just such a massive plant crawling up the greenhouse. They were actually all out of the pertusas whenever I went. I probably would have ended up getting one because it was one of those plants that you just look at and you absolutely fall in love with it as soon as you see it. It isn't variegated or anything. It is just such a beautifully fenestrated plant that I am such a sucker for fenestrations, and these ones just really take the cake. And yeah, it is just such a cool plant. I cannot again wait to have my hands on it hopefully this year. And if it's anything like the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, I am guessing that it'll be hopefully really easy care, just letting it sort of dry out halfway and giving it good waterings and lots of indirect light. So I am hoping that if I am able to get it this year, I am able to do it justice. And again, if I am able to get my hands on it, I will definitely be keeping you guys updated. So I really hope you guys all enjoyed seeing all of the wishlist plants I was able to get last year, as well as seeing all of the wishlist plants that I hope to be getting this year in 2023. So with that, it does bring us to the end of today's video, and I so do appreciate you if you stuck all the way to the end. So let's go ahead and roll the outro. Alrighty, that does bring us to the end of today's video. I so do hope you enjoyed getting to see all of the wishlist plants that I was able to get last year in 2022, as well as showing you all which wishlist plants I hope to be getting here in the year 2023. So if you did stick all the way to the end, I do appreciate you, and please ask that you leave a like, a comment down below, or even hitting that subscribe bell so that you are notified every time I upload a new video, and to help me keep on planting. Please also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at planted.hippie, where I post new planty photos daily. So with that, I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!